Hello and welcome to the video about dynamic play. What on earth is dynamic play? Well, there's a lot of dynamic advantages. So the concept of dynamic advantages, you have a temporary advantage, including lead development, open lines, better minor piece activity, initiative, and social control. So the first example of dynamic play is the opening blowout that white uses initiative, lead development, and actual tactics to win the game. So if you have initiative and actually moving forward with it, you lead to tactical play that actually wins. So knight f3, knight c6, d4, d5, c4. Then knight f6. The cool thing about this initiative dynamic play is you want to try for a lead development. Sometimes people sack a pawn for initiative like a gambit. These are dynamic play. People a lot of times sacrifice a pawn to get that dynamic play and win the game because the lead development is so really good, astoundingly good, that your opponent will be folding the game. So pawn takes d5, knight takes d5, e4. And the one thing about opening development is that you don't want to move the same piece twice. Now, then it goes to f6 to d5, now back to f6. This is a three move thing for one piece. This is really lagging. So knight c3, bishop d4, and now you want to see that d5 is actually crushing. And white is going to be winning because after knight d5, this is where the initiative, basically dynamic play comes in, that white is going to win by force because knight takes e5 sacrifice wins the game, because if they take the queen, this is allowing white to crack open the black structure because the bishop e5 check. And there's no way to get out of this alive. They're going to have to sacrifice a piece. Knight c7 is basically, this one is winning. Basically, a threat's better than execution. They could do bishop d7, but why not do this one? The threat is better than execution a lot of times. So let's say c6 happens, then pawn takes this way, and they can do, let's say, it's really hard to do anything because if they do something, then they're going to lose. Let's say e6, and I'm going to want to just move the king away. This is a really tragic mistake because white will be able to just knight c6 check, win the queen anyways, and this is going to be game over. The pawn will be promoted into the queen eventually, and this is really going to be very bad. At the very least, they're probably trying to be smart. This one, let's say c6 there, a6, try to be smart, but then there's c7 check. They take this bishop, but then we take this queen. All right, they take with the rook, and then we go knight takes d1, and you see the piece count. White has an extra whole knight for nothing, so this is not going to be good. So basically, the dynamic play is that initiative. Basically, you're only removing the piece twice for white because you want to use initiative because white is already developed. Already had the open lines. Like we talked about, the dynamic play, the dynamic advantages are open lines. We have that. We have development. We have the lead. We have initiative. We have forcing moves. We have a lot of things that black doesn't have. So that leads dynamic play. So once you have a lead development, open lines, look for dynamic play. So if you do that, you'll see that knight takes g5 all the time. Not even close. You're not going to miss it. So if you find yourself with open lines, lead development, you look for the combating, initiative-seeking moves that actually can sacrifice things to make your, let's say, advantage more as far as like development and also attacking potential. The dynamic play is all about this forcing initiative upon your opponent and have your, let's say, advantage increase. So this is the game I played against Eric Hook. I was black in this game. He was white. e4, e6. My favorite opening, the first defense, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, e5, knight fd7, f4, c5, everything's normal, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e3, bishop e7, all book moves, queen d2, castles, and black did the normal move, and white did not the normal move. He really did a bad move, queenside castle. And now black has initiative and dynamic play because they go c4. So they go g4, trying to be copycat, whatever. But now we go dynamic play. I'll sacrifice a pawn for the open line on the b file. So Eric Hook couldn't resist. He took this pawn. As a result, I had the open lines. Seek open lines, even if it costs a pawn. If you're having open lines to an enemy king, it'll be worth it. It'll be paying you back in dividends. So rook b8, knight d6. We trade on d6, but now we go knight f6, trying to eye on this e4 square, trying to blow up in this way and attacking the queen and pawn. So knight e5, trying to attack this knight, but don't do this ever, because if you do this one, like what wants you to do, then this will be an unwelcome guest that will not be able to easily able to get out of your house. So don't invite your crook and saying, okay, we have a bed for you. You're going to be not going moving out anytime soon. We have an open vacancy that you can basically perpetually occupy. But instead, in the game, I play queen takes c6. Dynamic play, we're going to seek about things in this game. So after this, bishop e2, watching this e4 square the bishop. This is basically the plan that Eric has. But now we go knight b4, initiative seeking. So you know how we talked about only move pieces twice in the opening if they have something dynamic involved and you have a good amount of development. There's only one, let's say one piece of the puzzle, one tempo, but the open lines actually encourages you to go forward and have initiative built up. So knight a2 is the big threat. So he went king b1, and now went bishop a6 to connect the rooks. So one thing I've been told from day one is that a lot of times you don't attack until you connect your rooks. And sometimes, given the situation like this, we have an open line already, you can actually just wait a little bit of time. Like bishop a6 is basically the completion. You can just you're on the way, and this is basically pushing your advantage by dynamic play. So you want to build up all of you have. If it's like a pawn in return you have those open lines, this is the key you want to look out for. Be aware that we have dynamic play and win the game. So queen c3, terrible move. Queen c3 is not doing anything besides being in the way of the pawn. Usually maybe c3 is having a line for this queen defending b2, but this queen c3 move is out of place. It doesn't belong there. So now rook b6 to go rook fb8. Doubling up is really good alignment of the king and the rooks we have. So business you want again, terrible move, reacting to my initiative. I have initiative because he is reacting to me. I'm pulling a string like a puppeteer. I'm just attacking him. He's reacting my, let's say, moves and not having any idea how to do something in the king side, which is advanced for g4 and things like that. So I doubled the pork chop. And after this one, h4, knight e4. So bishop takes e4, and this is not a pawn sack, because after the bishop takes c4, then queen takes c4, rook c6. So queen e2, I play knight takes e2. In retrospective, maybe rook takes c2 is better, but knight takes c2 was played. He played b3. Again, a terrible move, reacting my initiative. Queen takes c4 was much better by far, but b3 was actually going to my plans. I want to just sacrifice this one if I can. Things are initiative. Basically, you have a dynamic advantage that opens up the possibilities for a sack to be actual legitimate, and we can win the game that way. So rook h3 to eye on the defense laterally this way. So this guy's not a bonehead, he's a national master. I played e5. I want to go this way and basically have a battering ram with this b3 pawn. He played bishop e2. Again, terrible move. Don't react to me. He did that a4 like I wanted to do all the time. He played taking this pawn on a4. Now I played this cool, masterful cutoff move, e3. So it's basically blocking off the communication of the rook and the say, queen side. So I played rook h2, but now knight b4 is a killer. He played a blunder. Bishop a3 allows me to do lots of sort of things about, let's say, discover text. I settled with the knight takes a2 check, king a1, knight c3, a fork, and the queen and rook. Queen d3, knight takes d1, queen takes d1, and rook b4, attacking the bishop. So bishop b2 again, queen c4, trying to do this one, queen takes a4. So for some reason, he played a5. I did the queen a4 check move anyways. This one, rook takes b2, and this is where he resigned because he knows this queen will be lost. So one thing is important, that if you do this one, and this one, do not play e2, saying I want to promote another queen, because there'll be game over, because white says, aha, your king is weak. The back rank is mine, and we have one for white. But in the game, at this point, I would not do that. I just play simply something like h6, g6, f6, and then I'll play e2. There's no rush to do this one. Even rook c8 is very just mathematical. Rook c2 is a whole host of things I can do. e2, e1 is only, let's say, a cherry on top of all the things I can do dynamic play-wise. So what have we learned in this game? First of all, we learned that we want to get the open lines. The open lines invite us to have dynamic plays, so this open line is the first thing. The second of all is we have this dynamic knights, and basically the minor pieces are optimal. We want to have knight e4. Knights love to be on outposts. The bishops like to be on open lines, and the bishop wants to go in the game a6. You see that we have this bishop a6 is the most optimal square for this fresh bishop to be, to maybe have some influence. If the pawn's straight off, the c pawn gets straight off, the bishop is lovely looking at the f1 to a6 diagonal. So, and last of all, we have to have initiative. We have to have some active play. The doubling of the rooks are really dynamic. We're just attacking him with all the pieces that we have together like a symphony. That way we can coordinate an attack, we can coordinate initiative, and control the game like a puppeteer. And also at the very end, we have this sacrifice of basically this one. This is pawn sacrifice, but we got it back. The cool thing is, we have dynamic play that invites us to make sure that we have all sorts of tactics, and the game will be in our hands because of dynamic play. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson about what is dynamic play, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, check this video out to make sure that you get more important information to bring your chess to the next level.